Another thing is that souls that want to evolve choose challenging life very often because it speeds up the evolution and growth. The best way to gain wisdom is when you overcome challenges, right? Because that means you had to find solutions, you had to solve some problems, you had to learn through experience, right? So this is why a lot of highly evolved souls and starseeds choose challenging circumstances because they can try to overcome these challenging circumstances. So for example, many souls, many people who are spiritually awakened, who are, let's say, older souls or starseeds or more advanced souls, they had to go through a lot of troubles in their lives, maybe some kind of dysfunctional family. Hey, this is Mike Sula from TrueTheory.com and welcome to another episode of True Spirituality. So, True Spirituality is my series where I talk about metaphysics, esoteric ideas and teachings, mysticism, shamanism, consciousness, spirituality, psychedelics, shamanism, a little bit of everything. So, if you like these types of topics, welcome. If you're new here, please subscribe. And have a look at previous episodes as well, because this is episode 80 something already. So we have a lot of content. And before we're gonna start with the topic, very quick announcement. So still, if you don't know, my online course called Exit the Matrix is live. You can check it out at truetheory.com/academy. And this is a personal development course with 30 modules, guided meditation and some other bonus content, and it helps people to transform their lives and figure out what is blocking them from reaching their goals. And currently I'm still offering it at half price, and this is gonna finish soon, but if you're still considering and January is coming, maybe time for some change, this is a good period. You can still get my online course at half price now. All you have to do is go to truetheory.com/academy and use the coupon code Black Friday together at the checkout. Choose one of two different options. We have the course or the course with life coaching, and both are at half price. So go to truetheory.com/academy and get yourself this course for as little as $60 at the moment, which is half price from the official price. So truetheory.com/academy and use the coupon code Black Friday together at the checkout. Alright, so now let's talk about the topic. So some people think that spiritually awakened people suffer more in life than other people. And if you are this advanced soul, starseed, old soul that decided to incarnate here, why would you choose a life that has a lot of suffering? We know that we design a lot of aspects of our lives. Our lives are a combination of some of the things we've been doing so far. So some of the things we are allowed to do with basically how you evolved until now, and some of these aspects that we design, which is linked to our soul plan. So a lot of very important events are already chosen before we incarnate. And if you want to know more about it, have a look at one of my old videos which talks about the soul plan. But you might be wondering, why would you choose life full of challenges and suffering, for example? One thing is that we are looking at these things differently from higher levels. So for example, the same way like when you have a dream, and you might have a nightmare, but when you wake up, you don't think about this nightmare as much, maybe, right? So you look at your life very differently from levels higher, like when you're in a spirit form or as a higher self. That's one thing, right? You look at it more as experience, for example. Another thing is that souls that want to evolve choose challenging lives very often because it speeds up the evolution and growth. So apparently what's happening is that when you are evolving into higher densities, you are gaining more wisdom and love. These two are really important, right? And to reach the level of higher self, which is like somewhere maybe late 7th density or something like that, or 8th density, you need to become balanced between wisdom and love, right? And what's the best way to gain wisdom? The best way to gain wisdom is when you overcome challenges, right? Because that means you had to find solutions, you had to solve some problems, you had to learn through experience, right? So this is why a lot of highly evolved souls and starseeds choose challenging circumstances, because they can try to overcome these challenging circumstances. So for example, many souls, many people who are spiritually awakened, who are, let's say, older souls or starseeds or more advanced souls, they had to go through a lot of troubles in their lives. Maybe some kind of dysfunctional family, maybe some kind of addictions, maybe some other traumatic events in their lives. And going through challenges creates resistance and forces you to try to deal with that, overcome it, right? And very often once you overcome some challenge, you gain a lot of wisdom to now be able to maybe teach others on some of the things, because you understand what it is like. So let me give you one example from my life. So I've been experimenting a lot with different forms of magic and esoteric teachings, rituals, and this type of stuff. And what happened? I got myself in a lot of trouble because of some of these methods that I was playing with, and I got myself in serious issues with the dark side sometimes, and ended up in very bad scenarios with accidents, with some other consequences because of my experimentation, let's say. And someone would think, why would you maybe choose this type of path before? Why would you want to go through all the suffering involved? Now, because of some of these experiments and because of what I went through, I understand really well how the dark side operates, how the system operates, and now I can teach others, for example, so they can overcome some of their own challenges or maybe not get themselves in trouble. And I can kind of expose that as well to other people to make them aware, right? So this is my path, right? Now it makes sense, because very often some of the things that seemed like a negative events in your life actually start making sense later on. Another really good example of that is, so basically in Becoming Supernatural, which is a book by Joe Dispenza, he talks about someone who was his assistant, I believe, I read this book a long time ago, but basically the story goes like this. There is this woman who had a family and a husband, and her husband suddenly committed suicide and left her with, I think she had some kids, and turned out that he was in debt. He didn't say anything to her, so suddenly her life shifted completely, right? And she had so many negative emotions about what's happened. Obviously, the grief because her husband did what he did. Some kind of negative emotions like being angry that he could do something like that. He could leave her like this. He didn't say about his trouble, his issues, things like that, right? So what's happened? Her emotions literally created so much stress that over the next, whatever it was, couple of months or a couple of years, her health deteriorated completely into some levels where, like, you know, she had many different health problems, and the doctors were recommending chemotherapy and things like that. And at some point she got to a level where she prayed because she had enough, and that started her journey with some of the techniques of Joe Dispenza, you know, like some meditation methods that try to create the opposite feelings to the feelings she had that created the illnesses, right? So she started believing in these things, started practicing these methods, and overcame her own health problems, which seemed like crazy. You know, doctors were saying something to her that it is not gonna work, whatever, things like that. She literally went from biggest challenge of her life into the blessing, because now suddenly she learned that she can take power in her own hands. She understood the process, and then she became a teacher and she started teaching others these methods. And later on she said something, I think even like a couple of years later, when she overcame all these challenges, she said that this was one of the bigger blessings in her life, because thanks through what she went through, she learned the methods, she overcame the challenges, and you know, that's taught her a lot. So this is what happens. Sometimes we choose some circumstances in our lives which are designed to force us to learn from these situations, to overcome these situations, and through this process we gain wisdom. It's a little bit like when you go to the gym and you try to do weightlifting. There is gonna be some resistance, pain and stress, but that makes you stronger, right? That makes your body strong. So the same process is when we are going through evolution of the soul, through overcoming challenging experiences, you are building that muscle, the wisdom, that you gain the wisdom and things like that. So there are some other aspects why a lot of spiritually awakened people or old souls, let's say, suffer more. For example, one thing is that when you are way more conscious, you see all the flaws, for example, right? And as they say, ignorance is bliss for many, right? So many people live in illusion and they don't see the flaws, right? They don't notice these things. This is normal to them. You are perhaps more sensitive and you see all the negativity in the world, all the negativity around you, and that impacts you even more, for example. That means you have to protect your space. So whatever is lowering your emotions, your vibrations, avoid that. Avoid people, avoid information. You know, sometimes you have to fit into something like this capitalistic system that is very parasitical, exploitation on every level, and you might be way more sensitive to it and it affects you. So look for different options. Look for something that will work for you. Maybe a different type of career, maybe a different type of job. Look for what you are good at as well, and try to think how can you utilize that to turn it into maybe a career, for example. A lot of spiritually awakened people suffer, let's say, because they are lonely, because people don't understand you, because of, you know, how you see things, what are your views, you don't resonate with the rest. try to understand that not everyone thinks the way you think, and look for other people who will understand you. This is really important because it really works so well when we have communities. You know, last year I went to this conscious festival in Poland, and I was like, you know, I could go to a lot of these festivals because I can just do like a workshop or a talk or something, and typically there's no problem for me to get to these festivals. But I'm always like, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time for that, this is gonna be a waste of my time, blah blah blah. But last year I felt like, you know, let's do something in the summer. Let's go to one of these festivals. So I picked one of these festivals and I applied as a speaker, and I was accepted. And I was really positively surprised because of the people there. It was a few hundred people, but most people were very open-minded and very conscious. They knew so much about some of the topics I know about. And there were so many situations when I would have a discussion with someone about some really deep topics, and someone else would suddenly join the discussion. This person was passing by and heard us speaking about some topic, and they would join the conversation, give some recommendations of books or something. I was blown away. You know, I remember there was like these two guys selling some kind of vegan ice cream, sugar-free, whatever, and the guy is talking about Thoth, you know, like the Egyptian figure, and I was like, wow, even these guys know something. So I was like blown away, and I met a couple of people. There is one person that I stayed friends with, like we're in touch, and it's not easy for me to find someone like that. It doesn't happen that often. So really good to meet sometimes people who are like-minded. That's why it's really important sometimes to go to places like that, even if it means going to a different city or spending some money on it or whatever. Like, if you're gonna meet some people maybe and you're gonna become friends with for the next couple of years, that might be worth the hassle. Remember also that sometimes you go to a thing like that and the conditions there, let's say like in my case it was a summer festival for a couple of days, many people were sleeping there in tents. This creates a completely different environment to meet new people, right? It's not like meeting someone on the street or when you go to some kind of meeting. This is where you have conditions for a couple of days where you meet people every day and everyone is in a certain vibe and mood. And, you know, it's the summertime and things like that, so you get to actually sometimes go really deep into conversations with people you just met. So something to think about. But remember that you don't think about suffering necessarily as suffering, first thing. Another thing is, don't allow suffering in a way where other people take advantage of you. This is never good, right? If you are very kind, for example, like some of the highly spiritual people are, a lot of people will try to take advantage of you, right? This is what we attract very often here. You have to have your boundaries and say no sometimes when it's necessary, because otherwise they will just take advantage of you, and that's not good. You're not helping and things like that, right? And if you have problems with these things, get in touch. I do coaching one-on-one, for example, or remember that it will get easier with time. So sometimes people are afraid to say no, but you try it a couple of times and it becomes easier for you. Alright, so that's it for today. Follow me on Instagram, it's Mike Segula on Instagram, and let me know what you think about this video in the comments. If you watched till the end, you're incredible. Please give it a like, share the video with others, and thanks for watching. and till next time.